okay, Tampa Bay, this offense is a little bit different than maybe what you're used to. And I say that in a way of their ability. They got Mike Evans back, and that really, really has helped their offense. It was a little bit of some struggling going on. This is a team that's beat the Lions, beat the Eagles. Yeah, I mean they've played pretty well, and I kind of look at them. I don't see an 8-6 team. I see a team that's a little bit
pretty good
when you look at. But they've found a way to survive some injuries that they've had along the way. I know Brianna Dix was talking about that and having to be able to navigate that. But the last 4 games, if you look at what Mike Evans has done, he's got 26 receptions for 414 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, he's had some big games the last 3 weeks, and he's one of those guys that's they're going to play him in a couple of different spots as you deal with him. He's going to play mainly on the outside, but they're also not afraid to put him inside in the slot. So like 67%, if you're looking at metrics, 67% of the time he's going to play on the outside, and then that means 33%. I want to ask you guys this question. I am not interested in playing AO in this football game outside, and I'm saying this in a way that not because of what happened because they actually, if you look at Next Gen, they pinned that 80-yard play the other day on Hooker. Is what they did. When they call nearest defender, they pinned that one on Hooker, but they didn't communicate that well on the outside. I want to ask you guys this question. I'm more interested in trying to maybe play Izzy Mukwamu on the outside.
Yeah.
Play Lewis on the inside as he always does, but I'm also interested in kind of mixing it up a little bit where I play Lewis on the outside and Izzy on the inside. Just kind of flip things around and starting Izzy over, say, AO in this game with Bland. Because I feel like that if AO plays in this game, they're going to find a way. Liam Cohen is going to find a way to match Evans up against AO, and I think that's going to be a real problem. Would you guys be interested in maybe starting Izzy out there with the length that he has, the competitiveness that he has out there, and then maybe mixing it up a little bit with Jordan Lewis playing some on the outside against him? Would you be interested in that?
Yeah, because I kind of like Lewis maybe against the rookie McMillan. That might be a solid matchup for him.
Yeah.
But I like what you're saying there with Izzy. I mean, Izzy, that wild card game against Tampa.
Yeah.
He played in the slot and was absolutely fantastic the way he moved around for that size. I've always wondered, and maybe it's just a smarts thing, an IQ thing at times. But, yeah, I'm for giving Izzy some look here.
Yeah, definitely over AO. I'm totally in on that. I mean, you mentioned the body type and how that kind of pairs well going up against Evans, and then you just kind of see how it plays out. If he's getting torched, then, hey, Jordan Lewis, you might need to do something here.
Yeah, I will say this about McMillan. I think he's, again, Brianna talking about, I think he's come on, but he's had 40 targets this season, but he's also the most interceptions have been thrown his way. 40 targets, 5 interceptions. So, is this a guy, they might be trusting him a little bit more, but I kind of feel like, though, if it sounds like to me, and just kind of watching him play, that a rookie's kind of struggling a little bit there. If Baker Mayfield tends to go his direction, and all of a sudden you've got that's the most on the team, and 5 interceptions his direction. I don't know, and maybe some of it has to do with Mike Evans being out and stuff like that, but I don't know if you fully trust a guy like that. And can you get away with coverage on a guy like that?
You can try.
I mean,
I'm a big fan of his game. I loved watching him at Washington.
Sure. No, he's a good college player.
But to your point, it seems like these last few weeks, him and Baker are starting to get more on the same page.
So more on the same page.
So maybe that was kind of just like a guy that you're not used to playing with a ton early on. That's interesting, though. I mean, maybe that is a guy that you can kind of double Mike Evans and say, hey, force him to beat you.
I would say let McMillan, let's see if McMillan can beat you in this football game. And then maybe you play some coverage and direct that the way to Mike Evans' side and try and get that taken care of.
Well, I mean, so McMillan's usually out of the slot.
He can be, yeah.
He can be.
Or maybe they move him around a little bit too.
They got Sterling Shepard on this team that kind of plays out of the slot a little bit more for them.
I mean, McMillan, 9 catches, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns, 13 targets since week 14.
Yeah.
So he is starting to click a little bit. But that passing game in general makes it tough on you.
Makes it very tough. All right, when you start to talk about the passing game, it's Baker Mayfield, as we all know. What's interesting about Baker Mayfield is when you watch him play, he's got the second fewest air yards per attempt in the NFL at 6.3, but he's got the 8th most yards per attempt. So you can see the run after catch is big with these guys and the way that they play. He's also got the second highest completion percentage in the league at 71%.
Yeah, it's designed that way. It's not like, I'm just checking it down and we'll see what we get. It's like, no, this is designed for you're going to get the ball out quick, 5 yards down the field, and it's set up for the guy to go make a play Yak style.
Okay, this is where they hurt you. They hurt you with the back, throwing the ball to the backs in the flat.
Ouch.
Flat is a big deal for these guys. Now, let me ask you this. After you saw what
Chase Brown
did to you, are you concerned about what's going on with these backs? Because between these two backs, I think they've had 4 drops, but they've had like 80 receptions.
Yeah, Bucky's really strong as a receiver, and Rachaad White is a good receiving back.
Yeah.
So that's going to test your rookie, Maris Leofau. I think you feel good about Kendricks, but, I mean, maybe if he gets matched up in a weird position, we saw the amount of running he's had to do at times, and physically he's able to get out there in space. Mm-hmm. That definitely could be an issue.
Huge test for the defense, though, as they get a chance here, and it's the teams that can marry those routes with the blocking concepts that all sync up, and then the guy's gone. I guess there is an advantage that Trayvon Diggs isn't playing, so maybe you get a better tackler in there at least.
Yeah, I do worry about them throwing the ball to these backs. I will say this, though, that when I went back and watched all the sacks that they gave up.
Sack compilation.
Their backs do not protect particularly well. And they had a problem when they were down, when Gadecki was not a tackle at right tackle, and they had to play with Justin School. Justin School is a backup who's given up 7.5 sacks this year.
Justin School.
Yeah. And so when he had to play, like, the teams went after him.
Okay.
But this group has done a much better job with protections. But what's happened is if you play on the edges with these guys, they tend to lean. They tend to lean forward. They get forward on their toes. With the wider you play, I watched the Broncos game, which was really, really eye-opening for me. Broncos got a good defense. But what they did was they brought a lot of secondary pressure, a lot of linebacker pressure, and then they played their techniques a little bit wider on the defensive line, and it caused these Buccaneer offensive linemen to have to lean a little bit to go get them. So maybe Dallas thinks about a little bit wider with this up, but we've seen Dallas have some success with some secondary blitz. With Jordan Lewis getting home, Donovan Wilson getting home. Don't be surprised if Mike Zimmer sees that, watches that Broncos game, and kind of dials some things up on that one.
This is like an IQ test, though, for their OC Cohen, though. I mean, if he's really paying attention, you stay out of that as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And you run all over these guys.
Yeah, that's where Bucky Urban is going to come in this game. And Bucky Urban's averaging about 5.6 yards a carry.
Oh, my gosh.
And that puts him in the area of Saquon Barkley, who's 5'9", Henry, who's 5'8", and Gibbs, who's 5'6". Dallas has faced all these guys this season. But you've got with Bucky Urban, you've got an explosive runner. Mm-hmm. He's got 20 runs of 10 yards or better on 152 carries. Wow. He doesn't have the carries of these other guys, but he's got so that means 13% of his runs are explosive plays. He's also had 685 yards after contact. He's had a total of 852 yards. So 685 of his yards have come after contact.
Yeah, so I feel like we could be in for a 40 burger. This might be flashback to reality with a devastating 3-4 score loss.
Yeah, it could be a little bit of a problem. This guy's going to make you miss tackles, but he's also where they run the ball primarily is between the tackles. That's where he makes his hay. Like if you look at 54% of his runs have been, and I was watching the tape, have been between the tackles. Just to give you an example, Rico Dowdle's 64% of his runs. Brandon Jacobs is at 64%, and Bijan Robinson's at 69%. Those are the top running backs when it comes to running between the tackles. And so Dallas is going to have their hands full with that concept with him running.
Let's go, Mozzie.
Yeah.
Linval Joseph.
There you go.
Kendricks, Leafau. Going to be a big game for them. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Guys, the Buccaneers are going to play nickel 70% of this game against you, and they allow about 5.4 yards of play doing that. This unit allows the 9th fewest explosive plays as a defense. And, they've had some problems, with some people. Their numbers, the metrics and all that say that they're not a great. I think this team has had some problems in the secondary because of injuries. I know we had Bryan Broaddus on, but you watch and how they're trying to kind of make up for some guys. I think the problem here is that, to me, they're starting to get some guys back. Now we'll see if Zach, your safety, gets to play.
Oh, Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yeah, we'll see if he plays. I'm kind of hearing some things about him that he almost has to be perfect, like physically,
really?
like he's
a little Yu Darvish in him.
Yeah, a little Yu Darvish in him, that he absolutely has to be feeling it to
he was
get
under
out there.
DNP today.
Yeah, well then that means he's probably not going to play in this football game. But you're going to get a loaded box against these guys. That's going to be something. They have the highest rate in the league, and when it comes to the loaded box stuff. And the problem is when Dallas plays against loaded box teams, they don't rush the ball very well. Dallas is the 5th fewest yards when teams play loaded box against them, and that's even playing with Dowdle playing.
Now you got the alpha Brock Hoffman in there, though. Things might change.
The alpha.
So another thing this team does really, really well is they tackle. They allow the when you start to talk about receptions and stuff like that, 7th fewest yards. You watch them on tape. They got guys like David and others, and Winfield you mentioned. These guys tackle particularly well. And so what's going to happen is you're likely not going to have any real run after catch. But does Dallas really have any run after catch generally? Unless it's Turpin or somebody like that, right?
Maybe CD.
Yeah.
So they're not great in coverage, but they do tackle well?
They do. They tackle really, really well. But like I say, the problem that they have is their pass rush really is they've got some guys that their pass rush comes from their defensive tackles. It's not really from their edges. But they bring a lot of safety blitz. Nobody, I should say this, when we say safety blitz, secondary blitz. I think there's only one other team that blitzes more than this team does with secondary blitzes. So you're going to get linebacker blitzes, you're going to get safety blitzes. The problem again, now when you start to watch that and you see, I went back and looked at all the sacks that the Buccaneers had, with the blitzes and stuff, you're dealing with a quarterback. Your quarterback doesn't particularly play well against pressure.
Yeah.
And then when it's secondary pressure, he's really not good.
How's the ball skills in the defensive backfield for Tampa and their awareness? Because I think this game's got to look like last week where Cooper rushed through at least 2 that could have been picks and they ended up touchdowns.
Yeah, they're much like what you look at Carolina when you play with the off coverage. Carolina last week gave you about 7 yards of cushion, which was one of the biggest cushions you get in the league. This team's the 4th most when it comes to that. They're terrified with giving up the big play.
Okay.
That's their when they play a ton of zone, they play a lot of single high, and teams have kind of hurt them on that because they've given up plays up the seams. And so, but they're into totally playing with the deep safety, playing their corners at depth, and then just trying to keep everything in front, rally and tackle. That's what how they're off their defense. I mentioned about the explosives. When you talk about run defense, it's amazing with this group is, and I was like, man, they do a pretty decent job here with the. When it comes to at the line of scrimmage or beyond the line of scrimmage with the tackle stuff, they're actually a better defense with Vita Vea off the field, a better run defense with him being completely off the field.
That's weird.
It is weird. But you look at the number, how the metrics.
Like yards per carry or success rate?
It's like yards per carry. Like when he's on the field, opponents have rushed for like 5 yards a carry. When he's been off the field, it's about 3.4.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's wild.
But you know what teams are doing to him? They're running the ball on the edges.
Okay.
They're staying away from him
when he's on the field.
When he's on the field.
Gotcha.
And so what's going to happen to Dallas is, where does Rico Dowdle run the ball generally?
Inside.
Middle.
Inside. See, that's going to hurt you right there. You're going to, maybe the Turpin plays that we saw, or maybe not Turpin, but maybe it's more about Rico if setting that thing going off the edges there to try. If you're going to get Beebe, Hoffman, Steele, and then you get Schoonmaker or Ferguson or something like that, they did a really good job last week of securing that edge. I'd keep after that. If Turpin if that's part of what you're going to do with Turpin, because that's where the Buccaneers struggle, is the ball coming off the edge. The teams that run inside against them, it tends to be a little bit more of a problem for them. So
sounds like about 24-16 Tampa to me, based on these last two Krusty's corners.
Just like Cansey's an undersized end.
Well, he plays as a tackle, so that's what happened. You get him and Vita Vea and those guys. They get really they're a front that like to move. And when I always say the movement, they're big twist, and they're also, though, like I say, the blitz, the linebacker blitz, and then the secondary blitz. So they're going to try and move the front. Other than Vita Vea, he's going to just try and push the middle of the pocket, but they're going to bring some kind of combinations. You might have three guys down, two standing up, and then that's how they're going to rush you. So
they got some good athletes there.
Yeah,
like
the metrics say they're like Dallas and very poor, but I think they're digging out of holes. I think they're digging. I think they're playing better, but their hole was so deep because of some of the earlier stuff that happened. But if Dallas doesn't handle the blitz well in this one, then they're going to have problems. If they don't find a way to get the ball to the edge in the running game, they're going to have some problems. And they've got to have more than just one receiver win against single high coverage, especially when they're going to play off coverage on you. You got to find a way to win on the outside.
Got your hands full.
Yep.
With the playoff hopes slim to none. Sounds like they just got a little bit slimmer. I mean, the offensive description yesterday was pretty daunting. This sounds terrible.
Yeah.